Welcome to God Have Mercy.
This week, real quick, there was an article when we were in a meeting recently, and Angela Ferguson, who's our director over children's ministries, shared this thing. So it was the Barna. It was all about. Let me just say what it is, and then we'll talk about the shock to me. Yep. It basically said that the title. What's the title of the article? Yeah. So parents and church leaders disagree on how best to disciple your children or to teach your children about faith. Now, I've always told families, as a pastor in a church, like, as the church, we are here to equip you.
Right.
You are the primary faith formers of your children and your teenagers.
Yep.
And I just assumed that they thought that too. And then, so it's great that Joseph Patty, who's our director of student ministries, is here today, because I looked at this, and I think you might have been surprised too. But there was this study, Barna came out around children's ministry, and I think it's applicable because it has age breakdowns too. But it says that, well, here's what's interesting. It's broken down by ages. So they say children's ministry leaders. So if you ask children's ministry leaders, which would be like pastors,
Right.
Where should the primary discipleship occur? Who should be the primary source? 95% of the people who work at the church, the pastors, say, oh, at home.
Yep.
Primary should be at home.
Yep.
But guess what? Guess what parents say? They are actually split.
They are. 59 or
49 to 51.
51.
Only 49% of parents think that the primary source of children's discipleship should happen in the home. 51% think that it should be in the church. And when you look at all churched adults, even non-parents, it's almost the same thing. It's 50-50.
Right.
All right, so I have questions.
I have answers. I don't know if they're right, but I have answers.
First off, I apparently have been under some false sense of delusionment for a long time that parents agreed with me on this.
I would say most youth ministers would say that this is, I don't know if it's an overstatement of the percentage of parents that actually think they should own it. But
You think it's less than this?
I think it might be less. I mean,
So you think there's way less than 49% of parents who think they should be the primary source of faith formation for their children.
I would like to know the population they asked,
Yeah.
which we'll never get. But I think,
Well, it's churched adults, 1,021 churched adults. This was in 2021 when they asked this. So.
yeah. And so church adult's going to mean probably regular attenders, which to me, I think that's going to skew compared to the students that we're going to consider under the umbrella of our youth ministry.
But wouldn't you think if they're
Right.
churched adults, it'd be much higher to think I'm the primary source of formation? Or
I
maybe
think
there's
it's
a more of a trust, a default to say my church should be doing this.
It might depend on what church you're at. I think in a lot of cases, when my kid needs help with
Are you
math,
blaming this on the
send-
Baptists? This is what you're doing?
100%.
Oh my gosh. We try to be ecumenical here, Joseph. We try to be interdenomination.
If we could just be more Catholic. No,
Sorry to all the
I
Baptists out
think, for a lot of us, you think, man, my kid needs help with math. I'm going to send him to a math tutor. My kid needs help with soccer. I'm
Okay,
gonna
now
send
that's a
him
good point that I had not thought about, because
Right.
that is true. I will not help my kid with algebra.
Right? And so if I don't feel equipped to do it and I've got money as a resource to hand off to somebody else, then I think I'm going to do it.
Or as if these are church families, so they're going to church. So like you said, it's not about having money to pay a tutor, but they are going to a church
And
where they
there's a
feel like
sense in
there's
which
probably...
I think the responsibility that I'm taking on is that I'm being faithful to show up every week for an hour. Right? And so...
And I'm parking my kid in your
I'm parking my
youth
kid.
ministry.
And so Fuller Youth Institute came out with a study a while back, and they labeled it dry cleaner youth ministry. Right? I'm going to drop my kid off for an hour, and they're going to come back to me clean and ready to go for the week. And so much of what we do...
They don't get all the stains out in the neck
And
collar.
we forget the starch. I'm going to be honest. We're not good at starching.
No, we're not. Yeah.
There's no crease. But and so much of what we do is even just trying to, anytime parents are in the room, trying to just help parents catch the vision of, man, you are the person that God has put in your kid's life to lead them to the kingdom, right? To disciple them. And because, and one of the visuals, I wish I brought my jar. Every year when we kick off confirmation, we bring the 6th grade parents in. And in this jar is about 360 marbles, right? And that represents every week from now until your kid graduates and you send them off to college. You have 350 weeks between the beginning of 6th grade and graduation. And if you come to every Sunday, every life group, every fun hangout, every retreat, and every mission trip, and every camp, over 7 years between 6th grade and graduation, that will equal a total of 50 weeks. Now, the number of people that do that is like maybe 0.1%, right? Because that's everything. But even with that, there's a whole other 300 weeks of time that we have no contact with them, right? Now, granted, we in youth ministry are trying to do life relationally. We're showing up in their high school lunches.
So just
we're
to
doing all this
clarify,
fun
I'm
stuff.
making sure I'm curious. So you're saying that you have 360 weeks from 6th grade to graduation, and most of the kids are going to come to about, for church-wide stuff, that's about 50 weeks of the 360.
If you are the most invested youth kid ever, right? Like you don't miss a thing over 7 years, that's 50 weeks, right? And so the visual is intended to point out, and like
parents, you got more time than we do.
yeah, like there's just mathematically, you can't expect for discipleship to happen in an hour a week. Like it's discipleship is life on life. Discipleship is every part of your life, right? If the goal is to be with Jesus, like Jesus, and do what Jesus did, right? The disciples followed Jesus everywhere. There's an old rabbinical saying to be covered in the dust of your rabbi. Where it's literally you're following so close behind him that the dust that he kicks up is on your body. And if that is the goal, that we're with Jesus so much that we start to be with him, or so that we start to be like him, and so that we start to do the things that he did, like it doesn't work out. Formation doesn't happen in an hour. We can do things that help. We can preach, and we can encourage, and we can inspire, and we can give you a space where we can encounter the Lord. But man, when the most impactful thing, apart from statistically speaking, reading your Bible daily, is the number one. But one of the other most important things is having a parent who is authentically pursuing Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Right. And having other adults in their life, that at least 5 adults in your life, that church isn't just a thing in their life, but they actually have a relationship with Jesus. And if those things are in place, then there's a statistically way higher chance of them having a faith that sticks in college and beyond.
I say all the time, and I don't know if I came up with it. A lot of things I don't come up with, but I don't remember. But I've said this for years and years and years, is that you cannot lead anyone anywhere that you have not been or that you're not willing to go.
Yeah.
And I have said this to parents for all my ministry, is like, what's going to make the biggest difference for them in their life is if you have a relationship you're working on. And honestly, if you bring them to church every week and like with the dropping off mentality, I mean dropping off, leaving. If you're dropping them off and going into worship, I mean, I get that. But do they see in you outside of that time that you're actually trying to grow in your faith? That's the biggest impact that you'll ever have on your
100%.
kid, is that they will see you read the Bible. They will see you have a prayer. They will see you gather around and tell the story at Christmas. They will see these things, right? That this is important to you. This matters to you. It's kind of like the old, what was it? The Baby Wise book or whatever. It's like you teach your children, like when you come home from work, and the thing was, he was like setting the priority of allowing your children to know that the marriage relationship between husband and wife is the number one most important thing. And what happens is children are born into families and they become the number one most important thing, secondary to the relationship between the husband and the wife. So you're saying in order to model that as an image, when you come home and the kid comes, Dad, 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 and wants to see Dad, say, all right, hold on 1 minute. And mom go to mom, kiss mom, or mom kisses dad or whatever to say, oh, let's all right, now turn to them. And what that does is communicate to them, like there's a priority of relationship. First, it's mom and dad. And then second, it's like you are a part of that relationship. Kids are born into a family that already exists. And typically when kids are born, it's like they are the family. Everything revolves around them. Often. And again, so it just goes to modeling behavior. But I will say what you said shows up on this. It says that many parents admit they feel under-equipped. Yeah. And so 86% of these parents say their children learn spiritual lessons at church that they themselves cannot teach.
And I think there is a level of, the way this is named is strictly at home or strictly at church. I would be curious if there was an option for it's a teamwork thing. Yeah. Like the Orange curriculum, one of the things that they get right is this idea that the warmth of home and the light of the church, when it comes together intentionally, that's what creates, and they call it the orange glow, right? But it's that combo of, there's certain levels of doctrine that I'm going to be able to articulate way better just because I've been to seminary, and I'm a nerd, right? But at the same time, that's if we're talking about how formation happens. I don't know if you've read Good and Beautiful God, or John Mark Comer has popularized the language in his stuff. But formation happens, he's going to say, through story. We're formed by story, we're formed by practice, and we're formed by community. And that and all of that is by the Holy Spirit, right? It's the Spirit that does the work. But story can be just whatever is haphazardly filling your brain through TikTok, through commercials, through the liturgies that we experience in watching a football game, right? And then practice can either be just the habits that we fall into, right? The doom scroll, the I have to keep up with sports culture, et cetera. Or it can be intentional practice where, no, we're going to choose Sabbath. We're going to choose solitude. We're going to choose fasting gets tricky when you talk to parents about their kids. But anyways, and then community can be, okay, who are the people around us, or are we intentionally going to choose the people that are going to shape us?
Well, and that's one of the things the article talks about is mentoring other significant adults in the life of a child, and that it's like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 input of like, when you see these positive attributes, can the child integrate biblical principles? Do they study the Bible on their own? Do they memorize? Do they do this? Do they do this? Do they do this? And what they find is that when you see that successfully happening, usually 65%, that child has some meaningful adult relationship, some mentor, some Sunday school teacher, someone walking beside them in addition to their parents.
Yeah, which is a big part of why we do like life groups. And I would love to teach every lesson because I think I'm the best. But
he's very proud of his humility
and the most humble, like Moses. But no, like to entrust that to other adult leaders, because actually students seeing other adults who intentionally are pursuing their faith is more important than anything I could say. And the same thing with empowering student leaders, for middle schoolers to see high school students teaching or leading worship or praying or doing these things is so much more impactful than me doing it.
We were talking about that with our discipleship group. I think, there's a big thing we talk about, intergenerational relationships. And so you have to frame what those relationships will look like. So parents who want their children to grow in their faith, like you said, if you just come and bring them Sunday school, that's great. but there needs to be a way of thinking about how you expand that. Like the one big thing is parents, are you involved in this Sunday school education process? Are you seen? Do you have relationships with the kids? I mean, are you volunteering from time to time to be there? Most of the parents nowadays, unlike when I started out, it's like, "Phew, I need a break. Like I'm with this kid all week. I need an hour, so I'm going to take the kid to the Sunday school class, and I'm just going to go because that's a me time." And that's a hard thing. We don't live in the 2-hour Sunday school culture anymore, which like all churches were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s for the 2-hour culture. So you had a sanctuary, then you got 100 Sunday school rooms, or 50 Sunday school rooms, or 20, depending on how big your church is. And everyone was there for 2 hours. So all of the parents that were in, and kids went to worship, or they were excused for children's church.
Right.
But they were all there at least for a while. But then during Sunday school, some parents were in the Sunday school class for parents, but then there were a lot of the parents that were leading the Sunday school classes for the children. So you had this built-in intergenerational thing that we've kind of lost. I think some smaller churches actually still have it.
I think you're right.
Because you have maybe 3 or 4 kids in Sunday school, and you have someone's grandmother or who's teaching the Sunday school class, or a couple of parents or something that are doing it. And they're probably committed to being there and doing it every week because they have 2-hour mentality. They're coming for the hour to teach, and then they go to church.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, I'm trying to poo-poo it, say it's a horrible thing or a bad thing, but there does have to be, parents have to have, I think, a little bit more, I don't want to say more committed, but they do have to be more committed to partnering with the church. They're gonna have to put some skin in the game too, instead of just saying, "Yeah, it's on you." I mean, I can't do this, I can't teach it, but you can be there. You can have time. That's the big thing. It's like we will help you teach a Sunday school class, or we will help resource you. We will help give you all the tools you need to be in that room. Some of these parents are like, "I can do mine, but I can't do like all of these." That's scary.
Well, and so much of it, too, I think we get in our minds that I have to have my life together to minister to somebody else. And honestly, all it needs to be is, are you willing to have an honest conversation? Right? Like, just to say, hey, I don't have it all together.
Well, we're in ministry.
Let's
we
explore
have
together.
all our stuff together.
Obviously.
That's not how it works, people.
So, but yeah, and so it's just the invitation to come in all of your imperfection and just be willing to talk with students. And what I love about being with students is that once you get them talking, man, like there's no question that's out of bounds, right? Like they're willing to process honestly and be like, okay, wait, why do we believe this? And for a lot of adults, that'd be like terrifying. I wouldn't know what to say. But the good news is you can be like, I don't know. Let's figure it out together.
Find out.
Yeah. And just inviting them into the journey of, hey, faith isn't about certainty. The opposite of doubt is not certainty, right? Like it's okay. Like Jesus, if Jesus is okay with mystery and Jesus is okay with me not having it all figured out, maybe I can be okay with not having it all figured out.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, it's kind of like, I kind of feel like if a kid, when a kid asks you to explain the Trinity, what does the Trinity mean? How do you explain Trinity? I feel like that Nate Bargatze skit where they say, who can explain the Trinity? No one can. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
What's in a hot dog? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
We, in our student leadership interview process, one of the questions that we often ask is try to articulate the gospel like you would to a 6th grader with ADD, right? So which basically means you've got 5 sentences or less before they're like a squirrel, right? And recently, one of our high school students came in and beautifully compared the gospel to Fortnite. Have you played Fortnite?
I know what Fortnite is. It's not really on my repertoire video gaming. But.
And it was, I've played it a couple of times, but it was immaculate. It was incredible. And, the metaphor only pushes so far.
Yeah, well, all metaphors break down at some point.
But honestly, like that was such a gift to listen to because he's like, okay, what are they interested in? Yeah, I can talk that language for a minute. right?
Well, this goes back to conversation we had on the last podcast about, syncretism, right?
Yeah.
Holidays
100%.
and all this stuff. Kind of, he's coming into the world going, what do these kids know? Well, let me take something they know, integrate the faith into this thing.
Yeah, and ultimately, if I can introduce you to Jesus and you can encounter Jesus, that's where the transformation happens. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think it's a great conversation to continue to have. I mean, to share with parents and kids. It's like, the church has its role. We're here to resource and to equip. The Bible says we're here to equip the saints for the work of ministry.
There it is.
We're here to equip the parents for the work of ministry. And I do get, though, that parents don't feel qualified and adequate to do that. But that just means if you feel that way, don't just say I'm abdicating. It's all in the church. Mm-hmm. That just means you ought to lean in more. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I need to learn more. I need to grow more. How do I have this conversation? There's birds and the bees things that we did. I mean, it just goes to show. Like, we did this thing to help parents talk to their kids about the birds and the bees. And you realize when you have 300 people that show up, they're like, I need some help with this.
Yeah.
I need a little help. And there's probably a lot of topics that the church can help resource and give space and place where a lot of parents are go, I'll be there. I need help with this.
Yeah. One of the biggest things from that is that whenever your kid asks you a question that you're really uncomfortable with, is to respond with, I'm so glad you asked that.
It's not go ask your mom.
It's a stalling tactic, right? And like for us, one time we were at this church thing and a lady shared her testimony. And in the middle of her testimony, she goes, I'm not going to lie, y'all, I was fornicating. And so on the drive home, a little voice in the back seat, Mommy, what's fornicating? Right?
And Courtney says, I'm so glad you asked.
She did. And I was like, oh, yeah, like I'm supposed to be excited about this conversation. Oh, God. But I think that goes for all of these conversations, right? Of anytime an uncomfortable question comes up or something that I don't know, my initial response is to stiff arm it and say, go to somebody else. And instead, what if our response was, I'm so glad you asked that. And either let's explore in what I do know, or, hey, let's go figure that out together, or let's go talk with somebody who does. So.
Well, thanks for coming chatting about this. I think we'll continue to wrestle with it. Jeff, we got anything else?
Bishop Andy Doyle next week.
Ooh, Bishop Andy Doyle.
Is the week after that. So.
And then Thanksgiving episode where I teach Matt Russell to use a turkey turkey fryer.
Let's run it back.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll have to pull that up again.
Yeah, gotta do it.
No, we always like to watch the fried turkey explosion videos.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I'm John Stevens.
I'm Joseph Patty.
And this is Pod Have Mercy.